Hi, I'm Marie.
Hi, and I'm Russell.
And we're still standing with Ukraine. And we've brought back Lisa Murray and Susan Matheson because they sure have been doing a lot the past 4 years to help in Ukraine. And we haven't gone over all the wonderful things that they've done yet. And so I want to just briefly remind us, because not everybody sees the first episode, what is Common Man for Ukraine?
You want to start? Sure. We're a New Hampshire-based nonprofit that provides humanitarian aid and trauma relief to children in Ukraine. So we provide food, warmth, and love to kids all over Ukraine. We've raised about $5.3 million and delivered over 4 million pounds of food to children in Ukraine. We've driven over 1 million miles inside Ukraine with our convoys. We've had over 50 convoys in total. We've accompanied 14 of them, which is a really important part of us, bringing the stories home to the United States so people can learn about what's happening in Ukraine and the story of the children of Ukraine.
It's so important because it's not gone away. And
right.
People tend to forget when things aren't brought to mind. So thank you for what you do.
So in our first segment, we talked about our humanitarian aid convoys, which bring the food, the sleeping bags, the generators, gifts for kids, beanie babies, warm hats, that kind of things to children in safe houses and in the front lines. But today, we wanted to talk to you about our trauma counseling retreats.
Okay, so what's that all about?
So every year that we've been involved in this, actually probably every month, conditions on the ground change, needs that we see change, and we try to adapt to those changes. And in the first year, in 2022, a lot of it was more aid around food, housing, emergency relief, and so forth. But near the end of 2022, we had noticed that there was not a lot of attention being given to the children and what they were experiencing. So the Rotary group in Poland that is our partner over there that does all the logistics for these programs, they said that when Russia annexed Crimea, the Rotary group in Poland had started a summer camp for children whose fathers had been killed in that conflict. And so they said we could start a monthly retreat for the children of the soldiers being killed in this conflict if we were to raise the money for that. So we said, absolutely, that is just an amazing cause. So we call them trauma retreats. It's a time for 8 to 12-year-old children that are identified through the military, who having lost a parent in a parent soldier in the war. And we have a team of Ukrainian psychologists and doctors and so forth, and they reach out to the families, they explain what the retreat is, and they give them an opportunity to sign their children up for these camps. So they run every month in southern Poland. About 35 Ukrainian children come across the border with Ukrainian counselors and a doctor, and they get to spend almost 3 weeks in a beautiful part of southern Poland where there are no air raid sirens, there are no bomb shelters to go into, and they get to reset their nervous systems, they get to meet other kids who've lost their fathers, and they get to be children again. And the parents, the mothers really tell us how much these retreats have impacted the kids. They do a lot of art and music therapy to process their emotions. They get to go to water parks and hiking and talk about their fears, and they get some coping skills. We have coping kits that we give them, and the counselors talk to the kids about how to kind of check in with their emotions, how to alleviate some of their negative emotions. And it's been a really, really positive experience for them. We do actually give them surveys at the end of the retreats, and they can't say enough about how much it has meant to them. So it's been, yeah, I think we've served almost 1,500 children through that program, and they happen every month. Yeah, so here's a picture of, I think that was one of the camps in August. And it shows the kids, the 35 kids at that particular retreat. Every month it's a new group of children. And they each have a solar lantern that Susan has brought as a little thing to show you. So this one has different colors. They don't all have different colors, but we met a woman named Alice Chun who started this company called Solite, and she has done research on the effect of different color therapies for trauma patients, and she had been giving these out in hospitals in Kyiv, and so she's offered to give us some of these lanterns, so we try to distribute them to the kids every time they come to the retreats. And you know, this is a chance for them to control the darkness when the power goes out.
Yes.
It gives them a chance to
Good, yeah.
read, to do different things, and to kind of hold some control over the light in their lives. So it's been a really
And
beautiful.
it's solar?
It's a solar lantern, so they don't need power to keep it
That's
charged. They just
so
put it out in the
nice.
sun, and they really enjoy them.
So what ages are the kids that go to these retreats?
They're between 8 and 12 years old. And sometimes they're siblings, so it might be a 13-year-old or a 7-year-old if they're close in age. But it's been really, really powerful, really impactful.
Wow.
And we started, actually that led to us having 2 listening sessions with mothers inside Ukraine whose children had gone to a retreat. So we held one in Rivne and one in Venetia, and we asked the mothers, how was the retreat for your child? What was it like when they came home? What lasting effects have you seen over the months since the retreat? And in those listening sessions, they had nothing but positive things to say, but they also said, have you ever thought of having a retreat for us, the mothers? We're sometimes forgotten in this whole story. And so we said, absolutely, we can go fundraise. So you want to explain the mothers' retreats?
Yeah, so we did. And what they told us was that, they're young, widowed, living in a war zone with children and maybe elder relatives in their communities trying to make decisions. What should I do? Where should we live? How can I support these kids? How do I deal with my own personal loss as losing my husband? How do I help my children with the fact that they've lost their fathers at such young ages? And so we have invited the mothers of the children that complete our retreats to come back without the kids, just the moms, and together form almost a group of sisters who talk about these very important issues of healing, of calm, of loving again, safety, all these different things. And so generally, because of the complexity of leaving the war zone, if they have other children, or they have jobs, whatever, only about 50% of the moms can actually make it to the widows' retreats. So each month, if you can remember, we do 3 weeks of the children's retreat, then we do a week of the mothers' retreats, the widows' retreats. And then we start again the very next day with another 35 children to come in. It's a very busy calendar. The logistics are extensive. If you can imagine moving 30 kids from a war zone into Poland and then back across an international border at the end, keeping everybody safe and healthy, having the appropriate doctors and psychological staff and teachers all in place, keeping the kids safe when they go hiking and swimming, and thinking about the broken hearts that we're dealing with. So it's quite the full calendar, but thankfully with funding from generous donors here in the U.S. and the amazing support we get from Polish Rotarians, we're able to do it.
Wow, that's so good. And so in March, in a few days, you're going to be at one of those retreats, or are you going to do a convoy, or both?
Both, yes. We leave March 18th, and the first that we've kind of fallen into a pattern where we land in Krakow, we go to the children's retreat first. We spend a couple of days with the kids, get to know them, hand out some Beanie Babies. These are peace dolls that a group of women at the Laconia Community Church knit. Each one of them, or they crochet them, each one of them is unique. And so we hand these out to the kids too. Sometimes we bring candy. They love meeting Americans. They always have gifts for us. They sing us songs. They put on dances for us. It's a really beautiful thing. And we try to do our own, sometimes we'll sing them Christmas carols. We're not as good of singers as the kids are, but that's important for us. Again, that hand-to-hand giving where we actually meet them face-to-face and get to know them a little bit. And then we'll head into Ukraine for another convoy near the front line, and then on our way back through Poland, on our way home, we stop and visit the mothers' retreats, and we visit the widows and talk to them too. Yeah,
That's a good itinerary. Oh my
it really
goodness.
is. Yeah.
And you've got to be safe on that trip to the front line with the mines and all that out there.
Absolutely. Air raid sirens are almost every night now. The drone attacks are almost every night. We're going right to the front, so it's a very dangerous area. Often in these villages, everything is mined. All the fields, all the backcountry roads are mined, and you just have to take a very certain path that's been tested that you can get in. But just think about a child growing up in a world like that, where you can't just run across a field and play, or go play soccer and the ball scoots across, and what do? I mean, it's just a terrible situation for the kids.
Yeah.
We once discovered in an abandoned school a comic book that had been produced by USAID and the Children's Ministry in Ukraine. And the comic book was teaching children how to avoid these hazards. They said, if you find a little teddy bear by the side of the road, you can't pick it up because the Russians hide bombs in it. And this red upside down triangle is the symbol that says this road or field or land is mined. Or if you see a pile of leaves, don't kick the pile of leaves because there could be a bomb inside. And it just, as mothers, this breaks our hearts to think about little kids, 4, 5, 6-year-olds reading comic books about that instead of Bugs Bunny. It's really tragic that these kids are facing this kind of danger every single day. And some of the kids that we meet have really suffered emotionally, physically, but also think about their academics. If you haven't had reliable school for 4 years, and the 2 years prior to that were COVID. Yeah. So if we find a child at our trauma retreat who's 8 years old, it could very well be that that child has never had full-time school. And so can he read? Can she do any kind of rudimentary mathematics? Probably not.
Oh, so I have here where Alex is holding a couple book bags. Is that something educational in there for them?
Yes.
That is. That's an interesting photograph. So that was actually taken in a brand new underground school that was built in was it the Venetia? Zaporizhia region. And it was, state-of-the-art air exchange systems, communication systems. And it's a great thing. Ukrainians want to protect their children. But the reality is that it only fits about a third to a half of the students. So if there is an air raid siren, it would only protect half of them. So what they do is they have kind of rolling school days where half of the kids will come to school, because that's all that will either fit in the bomb shelter or the underground school, and then the other half stay at home and try to do online or at home learning. So it's a great investment in Ukraine's future, but it's a sad story to know that they're forced to do their schooling underground.
Yeah, so sad.
There's been a lot of talk lately about, I call it so-called peace talks, because I don't think they're very serious peace talks with Ukraine and Russia and the United States involved. And everything seems to center around Russia's demand for Ukraine to give up a lot of territory to them. You have been in Ukraine talking to Ukrainians for years. What's the feeling that you get from Ukrainians towards saying to Russia, okay, take half of our country?
They would never say that. They will say that they are war weary. It's been a long road for them, but they're not giving up anything. I've never heard a Ukrainian say, we're willing to give up land just to end this war.
It's a complete non-starter.
No.
And one way to look at that is they've invested so much in the last 4 years, and I mean literally their lives.
Yeah.
We visit a cemetery that we go to on every trip outside of Lviv, and when we first started going 4 years ago, it was the size of maybe a football field. And every time we go, there's more and more and more and more graves of soldiers and civilians. And so when you ask a Ukrainian, are you ready to give up now? I mean, I would never pose that question. It's absurd.
Less than ever now.
When we talk to Ukrainians, they say, when we win the war.
And you guys are meeting 4-year-old kids over there who never have known any other life.
Exactly.
Right. Exactly right.
Heartbreaking. Absolutely heartbreaking.
Yep. So that's why we continue to stand with Ukraine, with you too.
So, yeah, and so when you go and you bring this convoy of items to the front line, how do they react when you get there?
You can take that one. It's pretty amazing.
It's unbelievable. We'll set up a table, or tables, so we can distribute the items, and they know we're coming. There's a lot of anti-corruption measures that protect items like ours that are very valuable from hitting the black market. So every community that we serve has to provide documentation. It's all arranged ahead of time, so they know we're coming on a certain date. They know what we're bringing. And we'll arrive, and there'll be an orderly queue of several hundred people or 1,000 people waiting for us. And we'll pull up and set up our tables, and then it's a crush of people. And they just push towards the food and the garments and this upcoming convoy. And sometimes it's scary because there's so many people pushing towards the front to get the food. And I often think, if I was in this situation, if I was living in a war zone and I had kids at home and winter was coming or upon us, and I had a chance to get some food, I would be pushing too. I would be up at the front trying to get that food for my family. But when we load up a bag of groat and muesli and canned meat and yes, exactly, and literally hand that to a person, we often are greeted with, of course, thank you, thank you, thank you in Ukrainian, but tears, a hug. Thank you for remembering us. In one village recently outside Kherson, the community organizer there said, thank you so much for coming. No one will come here anymore because it's so dangerous. Thank you for coming. We have been forgotten.
Wow, that's
in that same village with people who have so little. When we arrived, before we distributed the food, they set out a little card table with a plastic tablecloth and put out little plates of, I know, precious meats and cheeses, and welcomed us and celebrated us. And it was so generous. And I felt so moved because they have so little. And, you know, we're going to go home to the United States, but they wanted to express their gratitude.
that's
Yeah.
so nice.
Yeah.
Ah, my eyes are getting wet. And tell me a little bit about this story.
So I don't remember his name, but this is at one of the children's retreats, and the kids get to do some fun activities. Sometimes they go bowling, or they'll go to a museum. And this time they had gone to a trampoline park. And so he had fallen on the trampoline and had broken his arm. So we were signing his cast.
I don't know, some kids kind of like those kind of wounds, right?
Yeah. Oh, he was smiling through it.
No, so he was getting a signature?
Yeah, that's Alex and Steve signing his cast.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Now, everybody who watches this and wants to, well, some people, maybe Ukraine has slipped out of their mind, but what can the average person who's not going to go to Ukraine do to help you guys or other people or help the people of Ukraine?
Well, you're doing one of the really most important things, which is telling the story. Because you're right, sometimes it can slip from the headlines and people forget, and very often the headlines don't talk about the children. And that's what's really important to Common Man for Ukraine, is the children. So if people want to help, it's not glamorous, but the thing we need most is donations. And we have on our website, commonmanforukraine.org, there's a chance to donate. You could just send $5 a month. You could make a donation of an appreciated stock or a donor-advised fund. You can donate anything you want. We'll turn it into resources to feed kids using our volunteer network. Our overhead is exceedingly low. We're all volunteers. We all pay for our own transportation. We want to make sure every dollar gets right into the hands of these kids.
I think there's another thing they can do is get on the newsletter for commonmanforukraine.org. And there are so many activities that you do throughout the year. I mean, the other day, well, it's actually a few months ago, you had like a flea market that raised a lot of funds because people donated and people bought. And it was as simple as that.
Right,
Donating
people do
something you
all
don't
kinds
want
of things.
anymore.
We've had
So you can become aware of
ukulele tournaments, cornhole tournaments, tennis tournaments. People have had dinners and concerts.
Yeah.
On March 12th at the Flying Monkey in Plymouth, we'll be having a premiere video of Voices from Ukraine, which was an original musical production that we produced last August.
in Concord.
And
Yes, there was a show in Concord.
there was a show in
People in
Concord.
Concord watching this, a lot
So-
of you actually filled the church.
Absolutely.
I
So
couldn't make it, but Russell went.
head up, if you didn't get a chance, head up to the Flying Monkey in
Yeah.
Plymouth and check out the video. We'll also have an interview with some of the actors who were in that production and where they are now, what they're doing with their lives,
Oh,
what's
awesome.
life like in Kyiv right now, which you can imagine is very
Hard,
difficult.
yeah.
Yeah. And if you do sign up for our free newsletter, we promise not to spam you. We only send a newsletter about every 2 weeks, except when we're in Ukraine, and then it's a daily update on our activities.
Well, if you're signing up for Common Man for Ukraine, you probably want to know what's happening with Common Man for Ukraine, right?
Yeah, we've gotten really positive feedback on the newsletters. People appreciate the
Yeah.
content and the new photos and videos that come from our trips. And also we curate some of the most recent articles about what's happening on the ground in Ukraine. So it's a nice way to keep abreast. And that's really another thing people can do is just keep Ukraine in their thoughts, talk to people about Ukraine, talk to your representatives about Ukraine, and continue to kind of push that desire, not just for us to have great programs, which is wonderful, but to end the war
Yeah, it's
with a free and independent Ukraine.
exactly, because anything else is capitulation. No. Yeah.
So you do a lot of work, mainly concentrating with children, and we hear stories about children being kidnapped by Russian soldiers to disperse across Russia and become future citizens of Russia. Do you have any information on that? Are kids being returned at all from this kidnapping?
So the UN estimates there's about 30,000 children that have been abducted from Ukraine, primarily in the east, and taken to Russia. And there are several wonderful nonprofits who try to retrieve those children, work with relatives, and get into Russia to get them back. It's very difficult. The numbers are in the low hundreds of children that have been relocated. We don't work with that system. We're focusing really on the kids in Ukraine, but it does inform, as you recall, we have to contact parents of children to say, we'd like to offer the retreats to your child. The child's father has died. We'd like to have the child attend one of our retreats in Poland. And you can imagine there's some hesitation at first, like, oh, is this kidnapping? Like, will they come home? But now, because we've served over 1,500 children, we have a network of mothers that can reach out to each mother and say, this is a wonderful, safe opportunity for your child, and they will indeed be returned safely.
And you do keep contact with some of the women and children that you've talked
Yeah,
to in the
I
past?
do. Yeah, I've got it. I always try to pick up a couple of phone numbers whenever we stop at the retreats. But some of the kids I've been communicating with for 3 years, We met them back in 2023. That year we happened to be at one of the retreats for a full week, so we got to know the kids a lot more. And my favorite one, not that there are favorites, but is a girl named Anna, and she lives in Poltava. And on one of our convoys, we were going right through Poltava, so we were able to stop and see her. And her birthday every year happens to be on the anniversary of the invasion. So sadly, that's why I remember her birthday every year. So it was her birthday yesterday. So I'll give her a happy birthday, Anna. It's her. She's 13 now.
Happy birthday, Anna. Wow.
Maybe the children in Ukraine would like to have pen pal children in the United States.
Well, actually, there's a school in Hopkinton, the Hopkinton High School, that's starting that right now.
Oh, that's awesome.
They're sending letters to the next retreat in Cyrillic. So they're working on the translations of these letters to reach out to the kids at the retreats.
And we're carrying the letters over,
Yes.
right, for them, yeah. So
Awesome.
great.
Yeah, that's so cool.
I'll also give a quick shout out to the Holderness School that's up in an area near where we live, and they have been amazing. They reached out, but they saw one of our presentations, and they've been raising money every month through a coffee cart on campus, and they send a check to us every month for about $800 to $1,000 just because they're so committed. And they have started going to the retreats. There'll be a small group going again in March, and they go with a counselor at Holderness School, and they hang out with the kids for a week of their vacation and learn Ukrainian, play with the kids, hear their stories.
They love the Ukrainian kids just love these students.
And the Holderness kids come back changed. They will say, I never met a kid who lived in a war zone. I've never met a kid whose father was a soldier and died, and so they're really moved by the experience. So.
That's amazing. I look forward to talking with them.
Yeah.
And that would probably be in April because they'll be gone till the end of March. But that would be awesome to have them here.
Yeah, they'll have good stories.
Yeah.
They're real leaders. They're future leaders in the world.
And I think we have a bit of time. You said, told me off air about a really good story from Lviv.
Oh, yes.
I'm really curious about that.
So we go to Lviv almost every trip now on our way back to Poland, and there's a particular church, the Church of St. Peter and St. Paul, and one day I went in, this was early in the conflict, and there were a few easels with photographs, just little 3x5 photographs of soldiers' faces, their full face in the 3x5 looking right at the camera. They're very moving. And I asked one of the priests about it. I said, what are these easels and pictures? And he said, we are the military church for the region, and so all of the funerals for the soldiers are held here. And the mothers and wives had asked if they could honor their lost family member by having their pictures up on these easels. And I said, oh, that's great, as a living memorial or a perpetual memorial inside the church. And so now, like every time we go, I stop in at the church, and there are more and more easels. And now there's 30 to 35 easels, and every easel has about 30 soldiers' faces. So it's really, tragic to see that. But so one time we had seen that in the church. We had gone outside for a little bit, and all of a sudden, just kind of out of nowhere, without any pomp or circumstance, people started lining up on the street outside of the church. And we thought, well, what's going on here? And then we noticed some of them, half of them were soldiers. They were just kind of walking up from I don't know where. And then a hearse pulled up. They carried out the two soldiers that they were having a funeral for that day. The military band or whatever had played for a little bit, and they put up posters on the day that they're burying a soldier, showing the soldier's face and their length of time in the military, some stories about them. They really honor their dead in a very beautiful way. And then another thing that we do in Lviv, which we did that day, is we stop at that cemetery that Susan had talked about, where there are just rows and rows of these new graves for the soldiers. And we went out there, and there were just so many of these graves, and they're very colorful. They have the beautiful blue and yellow flags flying in the wind, and the graves themselves are very they're decorated so personally and ornately. They'll have the person's favorite food, favorite toy, the photograph again of their face looking right at you, flowers. There's family there changing the flowers, you know, saying prayers. We saw, you know, a priest there with a family member saying prayers. And again, every row, every time we go, there's more and more, and there's even literally a shovel at the end of the row for the next one. So that was throughout the day, and then at the end of the day, we actually got to, you know, to the juxtaposition of such sadness and joy was the kids coming back from the retreat at the train station. So they were seeing their moms for the first time after their 3 weeks in Poland. So we saw their joy and some of their healing, which was beautiful. But at the beginning of that day, Susan's going to tell the story because she captured this on camera, on video so beautifully. And this is something that happens in Ukraine every single day at 9 a.m.
At 9 a.m., the entire country stops. If you're in a grocery store, you stop. If you're on the road, you stop. If you're in a bus, the bus stops. And over the air raid siren sound system, you will hear a clock ticking. Tick, tick, tick. And everyone stands in absolute silence for 1 full minute. And then at the end, they say, "Glory to Ukraine, glory to the heroes," and people begin their day again. But it's such a moving thing to
I've
see.
seen it online only.
Yes,
But you've lived it.
it's so moving to see that everyone universally stops to spend that moment to think about
Every
people
day.
that are fighting for their independence.
All in a day.
Well, we have to wrap this up, but me and Marie and I are getting choked up here.
Yeah. Understandably, we do too.
We haven't seen this.
Yeah.
I have. Yeah. Well,
We're still standing with Ukraine.
We're still
Yeah.
standing
We've
with
never stood in
Ukraine.
still
Ukraine.
standing with
Slava
Ukraine.
Ukraine.
And to learn more about our work, again, commonmanforukraine.org.
Yeah.
Share the story. Share the story of these kids.
You'll be watching this program on Concord Public TV or YouTube, Still Standing with Ukraine. We
Yeah.
really
So I
gotta
want to
wrap it up.
thank Concord Public TV for helping us with this show, and I also want to let you know that on March 7th and April 11th, we are going to be at Kimball Jenkins, and we're going to have my art and other people's art, including Ukrainian art, available for sale too. All the proceeds will be going to Ukraine. And via Dobro New England, also a New England nonprofit.
That's great.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
Thank
We
you guys for
appreciate it.
much.
And
Thank you,
so,
Concord TV.
and glory to Ukraine.
Glory to the heroes.
Slava Ukraini.
Heroям
Slava.
слава.
Slava.